We have arrived. This is Webb Parton, your host, and we welcome you to the Free Range Dogs podcast. This is a place where we stake out a shady spot and talk about all things dog. Find yourself a soft piece of grass, spin a few circles, plop down, rest your feet, and join us in this joyful conversation. Hi, this is Webb Parton with another episode of Free Range Dogs, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today. I'm talking with a fellow guide, a person who has spent some time in the great outdoors, and that's Shannon Walton, and she's of currently Orange Beach, Alabama. She's the past executive director of the Redside Foundation, and with that, I'd like to introduce Shannon. Shannon, tell the folks a little bit about you, and we had talked about your favorite first dog, Eli.
Hi, Webb. Thanks so much. Yes, I guided professionally for just over 15 years as a multi-day river guide, backcountry ski guide, and an off-trail backpacking guide. And when I was removing myself from the guiding world, I got a dog named Eli. And during my 15 years of guiding, I would go from one community to another, whether it was river guides and on the Middle Fork of the Salmon to skiing in the Tetons. And I was always moving from place to place and never really had a home or a solid base of community. I got lonely during those times, and near the end of my guiding career, I remember talking to a friend in Vermont and telling her that if I could just have a plant to take care of, that maybe that would make things better. And the desire for a plant ended up being having a relationship with a dog named Eli. And that sent me on a whole new path that probably 15 years later accumulated with me being the executive director of the Redside Foundation, which is an organization that looks after the health and strength of the professional outdoor guiding community, primarily providing mental health support.
Dogs have been such an important part of my life. And, of course, you were not you got your dog at the end. I lived on the road with a string of dogs. And, for me, that was sort of my community. And it was, there was a bit of a protection in that because I'd have a dog trailer and there'd be, 10, 12 dogs, riding with me, on the truck and the trailer. And normally when you guide, there is a lot of social interaction. If you're a river guide, you're there 24/7. You're taking care of everything. For me, it was from light to light. I would meet my guys at light in the morning, and we go look for quail, and we get back, and I drop them off, wherever they were going to be staying, and then I'd go to the motel or wherever I was staying and stretch out a chain gang and put out a lounge chair. And, me and the dogs would just sort of commune for a couple, 3 hours. And that was sort of my social network. I know that being an outdoor person, a guide, it's kind of a lonely life, can be. And, we had talked a bit, and you talked about what Eli meant to you, when he came into your life. You told me a good story about, someone told you about this dog and he was available and you brought him in. What was your sense to that because that was the first dog you had actually been your dog that you had lived with?
Yes. Yeah. So I was with a couple of friends surfing in San Diego. One of them was my girlfriend from Ireland, Jane. And we were having a great time. My other friend, Jen, lives in Tahoe. And we were sitting on the outside waiting for waves to come in. And it was sort of a space in between guiding seasons. So that's one of the benefits of being a guide, that you get to travel in between seasons. And Jen looked at me and she said, there's this dog. You have to take this dog. You need this dog. This dog needs you. And she told me a little bit about the dog, but I didn't really pay attention. And after our surfing trip in San Diego, Jane and I continued our trip, and we headed down to Mexico to continue to surf, and then we surfed our way back up the California coast. Super fun. I left Jane at the airport in San Francisco, and I got in my car to drive back to the Tetons. I stopped to visit Jen, and there was people at her house who were having a great evening. Woke up in the morning and Jen said, "You need to come with me. We got to go do something." And I thought we were going to go to the store and get stuff to make breakfast for her family. But nope, we went to a trailer park, and there was this tiny little husky dog with deep blue eyes, with a metal collar and a metal harness on, chained to a tree next to the trailer. And the poor dog looked scared and looked like it hated life and hated people. Jane knocked on the door of the trailer, and the woman who lived in the trailer opened the door, and she clearly was having a pretty tough time in life. Jen looked at her and said, "You don't have to do it anymore." And she unhooked the dog from the tree and put the dog in my arms. And that's how I got Eli. And that day I drove back to Wyoming with Eli, and he was really pretty tiny still. Mm-hmm. That night, when sleeping in the back of the truck, he slept right on my chest, and we were breathing together, and our hearts were beating together, and I knew, boy, we were going to have to really work this out. And, Eli was definitely mistreated as a puppy, and definitely an independent, pretty close to wild dog who would only respond to love. And he changed my life.
And it sounds like it was an immediate connection for you.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I clearly really wanted someone to love and to anchor myself with, guiding, as you said, each day you were meeting new clients, and when you guide, you're meeting new people all the time, and you never really go very deep, and any conversation you have is really about what's going on with the client's life. You don't really talk a lot about yourself. And so it's easy to get a little bit lost and a lot of it lonely. And I was clearly wanting that connection more than I probably recognized. And Eli was a real gift.
And my experience with dogs is that when they choose you, gosh, it's so deliberate. You become theirs. It's sort of the other people think, well, I got me a dog. Well, in the best of all worlds, the dog got you, and that connection, I know in my life, has been so profound because it's much more intimate than even a human relationship. I mean, they were able to completely let them in, and it fills a space that generally isn't available any other way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Eli, you said, was a husky or husky breed, and they're a particular kind of beast, in the work that I do with aversion work and that, I'll see all different kinds of dogs. And huskies are more social, in my estimation, more social in terms of their dog culture than other breeds, because they were genetically raised to live within a society of dogs. And there's those dominance interplays and all that sort of thing that dogs do. And I know that when I work with huskies, they can be fairly stoic. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to let on that there's, any concern, where some dogs will just melt in your arms. A husky is a bit of a badass, and that would be a real good choice for a person who had lived their life out, because it would be a good fit. It was, again, my way of thinking. What did he do to help you access the wild? Because he essentially was genetically a pretty wild creature himself.
Yeah, for sure. He looked a lot like a coyote, and we home based out of the Jackson, Wyoming area. So he was often mistaken for a wild animal, which was always a pretty interesting thing. Such a great question. Eli only responded to love. Mm-hmm. So there was the need to be in a place where where we could both succeed, if you will, which was outside. And he needed a lot of exercise. He needed at least 6 miles twice a day, if not more. And so I would arrange my life around Eli, and we'd wake up and we'd go for a huge hike or a ski, and I would go do some work, and then maybe we'd go for a mountain bike ride, and then I would do some work, so he helped me get out a lot more than I maybe would have. Being a guide, I tend towards working really hard for long periods of time. And Eli made me take breaks and go and explore different places. And because he paid attention better when he was in a new place, we always were looking for new places to go. And so that was great. And then having the Tetons as our home base meant we had an entire mountain range to explore, and oftentimes went places that were pretty remote. We would have, Eli and I ran into a wolf 2 different times. We had a long-term best friendship with an eagle. We went into places that, that I never would have gone to otherwise, for sure.
Yeah.
There was another day where he came face to face with a moose, and, that is a really bad situation for a dog. A moose will just kick a dog, and that will either cause, death or brain damage or internal injuries. But Eli and the moose just looked at each other and looked at each other and looked at each other, and they came to some sort of silent agreement, and the moose let us pass, and it was an amazing moment. Many moments like that with that dog.
We have a couple of podcasts coming up about relationships with falcons and dogs and falcons. I have not been familiar with those sorts of things, because I've never kept birds of prey. Right. But I know that I have watched just birds of prey do amazing things. And I recall one day I was with clients, and we were Mearns hunting on the border, southern Arizona, Mearns quail. And this Cooper's hawk followed us and literally would hang back about 50 yards and just go from tree to tree, waiting for us to flush quail. And he stayed with us for a big chunk of the day. So he was literally connected. Of course, he was looking for a meal, but he was tracking us and tracking the dogs. And I have, some of the falconers I've talked with describe those sort of interactions. But an eagle, that's sort of a mythic beast, Yeah. And so this eagle knew you and monitored you and followed you when you were on your walks?
Yeah. They're in Jackson, Wyoming. There's to the west, there's a little town called Wilson, right on the Snake River. And at Wilson, there are dikes on either side of the river, and you can walk on them. They're very popular places to walk. More and more popular every day, I think. But back when Eli and I were walking there, they weren't that popular. You'd often run into moose and bear on the dike. But we were about 3 miles in, there was a permanent eagle residence nest. And so we would walk underneath that nest every day. And that was our normal walk for many years. And over time, that eagle would acknowledge us, and we would acknowledge the eagle, and the relationship deepened over time, and it was really obvious. And it was obvious the eagle would track Eli, and Eli would always look up at the nest. It was it was a wild thing, and I thought I was imagining it for some time. But one day I was walking on a different part of the dike, farther south of town in Jackson, down by the southern part of town. There's another access to the Snake River that you can hit, and there's a dike on the, I guess that would be the east side. And I was having a bad day. Weather was having a really bad day. I was just looking at the ground and kind of stomping along, and Eli, being a pretty wild dog, he was not doing his normal thing, which is normally he would walk maybe, 20 to 100 paces in front of me. But instead he was right next to me, and he was worried about me. It was really sweet. And all of a sudden I heard the squawk, and I knew it was our eagle friend. And I looked up, and sure enough, there was the eagle, and he was flying overhead, and he gave a little wingtip and another squawk, and I kind of had the message of like, it's okay, you know, look up, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really sweet. But of course, I was really enjoying my really bad day, and I was kind of stomping along, looking at the ground, and I heard another squawk, and I was about to look up just when this big old trout came out of the sky right in front of us and landed right at my feet with the talon marks in it and everything. Eli looked at the fish, looked at me, looked up at the eagle. I looked at the fish, and I looked at Eli, and I looked up at the eagle, and the eagle did a little circle above us and another little wingtip and took off. And you know, that the eagle knew I was having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was an interesting thing. We saw that eagle every day for many years until one day, one spring, we were back walking on our normal section of the dike near Wilson. And I saw the eagle up in the nest, and you know, by this time I was talking to him every day, and Eli was looking up as well. We said good morning, and the eagle stretched his wings and kind of stood up out of his nest and got ready to go and took off and put it, you know, have you ever seen an eagle try to catch fish or catch fish out of a river?
Yes, I've watched it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so like the big wingspan and then kind of pulling it in to dive down. He dove into the river and he hooked into a trout. You could see it, but the trout was a big trout, and the trout did not like what was happening, and it dove and it drowned the eagle. We watched the eagle die. And it was a wild thing. Eli and I just stood there, and Eli just stood there staring at the river for the longest time. I knew that Eli knew what just happened. And we just ended up sitting there looking at the river for probably 20 minutes after that.
Well, that's really a gift of sorts. A hard thing to see, but what an intimate moment.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah. Well, Eli, you talked about him connecting with that moose and connecting with the eagle. He sounds like he was a wild creature at heart that just needed to be out, just needed to be in nature. Yeah. And I know that, for me, you know, there's sometimes you kind of need that pull, you know, if, the human world sort of gets at you. But dogs don't have the problems that humans do. And so they're much more direct about where they and their human need to be.
So true. Yep. And you know, Eli would never, if he saw me drink a beer, he would give me the stink eye. Like he did not like it when people altered themselves with drugs or alcohol. I watched him just stare at some people who were smoking weed one day. He had no tolerance for escapism like that in humans. It was amazing. He was really amazing that way. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, he was like, yeah, no, we just gotta go outside. Right. We gotta go.
Right.
Yeah.
And you said he was young. How young was he when you got him, you think?
I think he was definitely under a year.
Okay.
Yeah, he was still pretty small. Like he could sleep on my chest. He never got to be a very big dog. My friend Devaki calls him the narrow dog. He probably weighed 60 pounds max. He was probably the runt of his litter. Like I said, he looked like a coyote, but he was narrow.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wonder what that connection was for him then, because he must have, you got him young enough. Of course, as you described it, his conditions before he came to you, that might have been one of the things that he had dealt with the human he had tried to bond with. And maybe that was why he reacted so strongly.
It could be. And you know, he always kind of knew what to do. Like one morning, I was still working as a ski guide when I had Eli, and then also doing day trips river guiding. I wasn't doing overnight river guiding anymore. But I woke up early with Eli, and we went for cross-country ski before I went and did my ski guiding day. And we came across a fresh kill of a young deer that had just been taken down by a mountain lion. It was all still warm, just the good stuff was missing out of its middle,
Mm-hmm.
And all the other creatures were starting to move in. So there were ravens. There was a golden eagle who was trying to come in. Everybody was moving in to get their bits on this fresh kill. And we skied right up on it. And Eli, I think so many other dogs would have just been in trouble in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
But he just stopped and he looked at me and he stopped and he just looked around and he kind of assessed the scene and he turned around and he left. He knew that it was no place to be.
Mm-hmm.
That was super cool. He had another really good trick where he only got porcupined once, so he knew what it was. And then after that, anytime he found a porcupine, he would go and trot around and try to find any other dogs in the area to show them this really cool thing he just found. He was a trickster, and he'd pull the other dogs into the area and watch them get porcupine. I can't tell you how many dogs of people I don't know I took to the vet to get porcupine clothes out of them and deliver them back to their people.
And so he literally knew what a porcupine was. That one experience with him was enough to learn.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He was, he showed me a lot of joy in the kind of the trickster that he was. And because he would only ever respond to love, he allowed me to learn how to be compassionate, communicate with compassion, accept love, and slow down and be calm and kind with my communication, which is not necessarily how you live your life when you're a guide. Things are direct. Oftentimes when you're communicating with people, you're telling them what to do because it's important that they do it right now.
Well, because I worked, I trained bird dogs for a lot of years, and I didn't train trial dogs or hunting test dogs or that sort of thing. I trained dogs for hunting, meaning the dogs that had a relationship with the human, and that relationship was around finding birds. And, stuff breaks, stuff gets off track, and the source of fixing that is to help the dog find their passion, to help them back on birds, or to get them feeling safe around humans and birds, that sort of thing. And when a dog would come in, that was kind of the first assessment, because you really need a dog. If you're going to fix something, you need a dog that responds to kindness, because sometimes they don't. Like people. Some people don't respond to kindness. They need another kind of interaction with the world that damages themselves, So if a dog comes in and they'll respond to love, then you can fix it, And so it sounds like you had to, he just was the perfect being at the perfect time to mesh in with your life, that old adage about cogs that work together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to say that. Yep. Yeah.
And how did Eli age when he got older?
Oh, he ended up, that's such a nice question. He got doggy Alzheimer's.
Ah, okay.
And it was a tough thing to understand what was going on. Mm-hmm. He started pacing a lot. He wouldn't relax, and he would forget if he ate or not. I've never met another dog like him, and that he needed to be at least, for lack of a better measurement, about 6 blocks away from wherever he lived in order to poop.
Okay.
And he rarely wanted to pee in his own yard. Mm-hmm. Near where he lived. He always wanted to go do that stuff away. He didn't want anyone to know where he was going to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. But as in his doggy Alzheimer's years, he would forget where he was, and he would go to the bathroom really close to his house. Mm-hmm. And he'd get if he ate or not. And it took a long time to realize what was going on. And once I did, we just, I'd sleep on the living room floor with him, just trying to get him to calm down and recognize that it was time to go to sleep. And told him that whenever he was 15 at this point. And until then, probably until he was like 13, he was still going skiing. He was still, he was still going in boats.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I told him whenever he was ready, it was okay. And about a year of talking about that with him, he let us know it was time.
Mm-hmm. Did he pass naturally, or did you have to assist him?
Well, an assist. We have a really great friend in Park City named Maglie, who is a French Canadian woman she's a vet and an incredibly compassionate human. And she was close by. We called Maggie and asked her to come over and help us out. We made a pile of blankets, all of Eli's favorite blankets and sleeping bags, and cooked him a steak. And
yeah.
And he didn't really want much of it, but that's okay. And Maggie gave him a shot. And by that time, I was married and had another dog named Olive, who is still here. We were all there together. And with that first shot, when he went to sleep, there was a sense of relief in the house that was kind of shocking. And then the second shot, the goodbye shot, Olive was just watching the whole thing. She loved Eli. She was just watching the whole thing, and she saw Eli's soul leave his body. I don't even know how to talk about it. She just was watching him, and then all of a sudden her eyes and her head went up and just watched him go away. And there was never any separation issues or anxiety issues with losing her brother. And I think it's because she was able to see it all.
Mm-hmm. She understood it.
Yeah. She understood it. And I've hung on to Eli's ashes for, probably, I don't even know how many years. I just, right on my move from Idaho down to Alabama, I stopped at the dike on the Snake River where we used to walk all the time, and I put Eli's ashes in the river.
Mm-hmm.
It took that long to let him go.
Yeah. Yeah, we have some ashes here too. Yeah. It's such a hard thing when they need to go. And we've been fortunate in some instances where they pass naturally.
Wow.
And we would, we've got an old wicker bed here that, used it for 30 years, 40 years. Where when they lose mobility, then I line the bed with a tarp and put soft blankets in there, and then we can kind of move them around to where the action is in the house. And so they're by us. You know how they get, at the end, they just want to be with you. They want to be by you.
Oh yeah.
But that's a hard thing. There's no easy way to let go of a dog.
No.
And I know for me, a lot of times I'll feel them there,
Right.
And dogs have been gone a while, and I'll feel that dog there. Maybe they're just checking in.
I like that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Olive is right here under my feet now. She's 15 now. She's always right underfoot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More so than ever.
Now, will you do it again?
Another dog?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you can live without dogs.
Okay.
I don't think that they do. I don't know what we've done to deserve dogs in our lives, but that, when we met, we had a little conversation about trauma and whatnot in our lives, and dogs, that unconditional love and trust that a dog gives you is such a gift, and oftentimes you have to reach pretty deep within yourself in order to give that back.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the greatest gift that there is. I'd live with all the dog hair for that.
Yeah. yeah, it is, there's so much joy involved in that life with the dog. And you get to the end and it can be kind of hard. But it is part of the deal. And weighing against, just how incredible that relationship is. It's, even in and of itself, it can be a gift, you know? Yeah.
You might be able to spend a lot of time in the national parks or, you know, go to certain places, but you get a very special life partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
and I don't know. I mean, I've only ever had Eli and Olive, right? And Eli was 15 years and Olive is at 15 now.
Yeah.
Who knows how long she's going to last?
Yeah.
It's, my mom's always had golden retrievers.
Mm-hmm.
She's, I think 10 years is a fairly normal lifespan for the golden retrievers that she's had.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a lot of dogs in a life. That's a lot of gifts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, at 15, that's a pretty good run for a dog, you know. Yeah, it's a pretty good run. And her mobility is good, and she's still anxious and ready to go in the mornings.
She's ready to go, but she really only goes about a block.
Well, I've had those days.
Yeah.
So I understand. Yeah, we have a dog here now named Drake, a yellow lab, and he's an American lab. So he's big, long-legged, and just runs like a gazelle. But it's the same sort of thing. I had some health stuff for a time, and then I went to, I was up working in Salt Lake, and we had just lost another yellow lab, Jackson. And I see an ad for American Yellow Lab. You know, why do we make those choices? What caused you, you know, when your friend said, hey, I got something we need to do, you know, the universe sort of conspires. And I go to pick this, go to look at this dog. And, you know, I've spent so much time with different breeds. I'm pretty good at judging what I'm looking at. And he was well bred, looked like he had a lot of drive. But, you know, I really couldn't understand how much drive he had because, for me, I needed to, you know, to get healthy and get back out and moving again and doing things again. And there is no stopping him. He gets up in the morning. I'm laying at bed at 5:30 and he's at the side of the bed with his chin, laying on my shoulder saying, hey, buddy, you know, if you get up now, we can beat the sun. Yeah. And, you know, you make that connection. And just like you and Eli, when you get ready to go for a walk, it's the pair of you walking, you know, it's not you walking that, edge of the river. It's you and your dog. And they just bring such an added dimension to life. You know, he's, Drake, the lab, he's quite a guy, you know, quite a guy. He will not be denied, which is really kind of what I needed at the time, you know?
Oh,
yeah.
How old is he now?
He's, he's going to be about 6 or 7.
Oh, that's kind of the best age in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's another part of all that we haven't really talked about, that part about how a dog helps you be out in the wild more and experience more wildness. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Eli, especially being a husky, because they are, you know, fast and smart and whatnot, I could never not be paying attention to what was going on around him. Mm-hmm. It's a skill I learned from guiding, for sure, but, you know, a lot of times when people go for a walk, they kind of space out, right? Like people talk about taking a walking meditation or being able to just look around. And when you're walking with a dog, especially when you're working with and you're working on being able to be off leash and still have good communication, you never not pay attention. You know, if you look away for a second, the dog could be gone, or you could have missed some very important tell or clue. You have to really pay attention. So I think you get a chance to see the world more deeply and more fully.
Yeah, there's a real intentionality to it.
Oh, that's a great way to say it. Yep.
Yeah. And you know, the truth of it is that their focus is so pinpoint on everything that's coming into their nose and everything that's been there, you know, that morning, that we humans just don't have that ability. We're olfactorily challenged. So, you know, when our dog is on a walk, they're reading their voicemail. You know, they're getting, everybody's been by over the last month, you know, they're getting a full readout. Where, if you are with that dog and you understand that and you're able to watch it and you're intentional enough to keep the focus there as opposed to worrying about, you know, what you saw on CNN or, you know, ad infinitum, it does change your life. It does, they pull you into their world. They pull you into the natural world, because you have to be there to keep up with them.
Yep. Yep. It's so true. It's so true.
All right.
Yep. I was just thinking about a day that we were boating down the Snake River in Idaho through the Birds of Prey section. And Eli was famous for jumping out of the boat and swimming through a class 3 rapid in order to get to shore so that he could run along the shore and match pace with the boat. That was his favorite thing to do. Mm-hmm. And not a safe thing or a great thing. And so, you know, you're always trying to make sure that didn't happen, but sometimes it happened. And Eli did that. He jumped out of the boat, ran to shore, and there were some folks fishing on the shore. And all of a sudden we just heard this yell, "Hey, did you lose a wolf?" And it was that reminder of one of the reasons why we're out here is because we all belong here, but the Eli's pulling us here because this is the place where he fits.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You should have yelled back and said, "No, he's not lost."
That would have been great.
Yeah. He knows right where he's at. Yeah.
Yep. So true. How many dogs do you have?
Well, we currently have 3.
Oh, wow.
Most of our lives here, you know, we'd have 30 dogs on the place. We'd have, when I was guiding, we'd have 6 to 18 of our own. And then, I do classes of 10 dogs. Every 3 months, a new group of 10 would come in. So, you know, we were kind of dog heavy. We are, all our setters are gone. The bird dogs are gone. And, we have one female wire hair, and she's about 7 or 8. And then Drake, who's about 7, and he came in later. We got him when he was 4 years old. We got Scout, the wire hair. We got her as a baby, you know, at 7 weeks old. And then we have a little clubber spaniel, Rafe, who he's over 10 at this point, and he's sort of the old gentleman of the group, you know, sort of a little bit of a curmudgeon that kind of monitors everything. So life here has gotten quieter, simpler. Whereas Drake makes up for about 3 or 4 of a normal dog. So, you know, he's trying to carry the flag. Yeah, but it's, I can't imagine a life without dogs. But you reach a certain age or point in your life where you can't have 20 dogs either, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Just a lot of work. And of course, you know, when I was guiding, it was what I did. But all those dogs had to be tended and exercised and trained, and you know, you adjust your life to the way that it needs to be with the things that you love in your life. And for us here, my wife and I, it's been dogs, been bird dogs, and retrievers. And, there's patterns. You grow, you change, things become unavailable or less important or whatever, and you modify. And so for us right now, 3 is a good number. I'm not sure what we'll do when we lose Rafe. We talked about an English Cocker, or maybe a Boykin Spaniel. But again, I don't know. We'll wait until that happens.
So, it sounds like working dogs are part of the deal, right? Not only was that what you worked with when you guided, but working dogs need jobs and they help keep things moving and busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a perpetual motion to it.
Yes.
Yeah, it does not stop. It's sort of like a river guide and sitting in a raft. The raft does not stop. It's going to an appointed place downriver, and you best just hang on and keep up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's been such an enjoyable time talking with you. I wish I could have met Eli. He sounds like quite a guy.
Yes, you would have liked him, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I generally do like huskies. They're often very vocal. They often like to talk to you.
Yeah, he was not a vocal guy.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. If there was a siren, he'd let you know that there was an emergency nearby.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't really make noise otherwise.
Mm-hmm. I would assume he talked with you through his eyes, eye contact,
yes.
staring. Yeah.
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 Yeah. There was, I know we probably need to wrap this up, but he was out in the yard one day where we lived in outside of Jackson. He went out to do his thing, and he came back in and everything seemed fine, and then he was acting really weird. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I went out into the yard to see if there was something, maybe he ate something, and I found these mushrooms out in the yard, and I put 2 and 2 together, and
oh dear,
it seemed like maybe he ate some psychedelic mushrooms.
Oh dear.
And so and once it occurred to me, I went in and I looked at him, with the question,
mm-hmm.
and I could tell, yep, that's what was going on.
Yeah.
And we sat all night, and he just, he never broke eye contact with me, just letting me know what was going on with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a long night, but I'm glad I was there for him, because I think it might have been scary otherwise.
It was the 60s all over again.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Something either just knew what was going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for spending time with us today. And it's such a pleasure to talk with another dog lover that has been able to make that connection and experience that sort of, deep commitment that a dog has to their person. Is there anything I can do to help you? Do you want to give anybody a plug? I know that you've been working with guides and on mental health issues and that sort of thing, and that's such important work. How can folks get more information on that and get involved with that if they'd like to?
Thanks. Yeah, the Redside Foundation is the nonprofit that I just stepped away from being the executive director of. And it was started in 2010 when a much-loved guide, who was a hunting guide and a river guide, committed suicide. No one saw it coming, and it really kind of rocked the guiding community and his family. And there was a conversation about, well, maybe we can do something to help people so this doesn't happen again. And the Redside Foundation is formed out of that. And since then, I know that we have definitely saved some guides' lives. Mm-hmm. Their main program is a mental health line where if a guide is struggling, they can call or text a number, and a licensed therapist will get back in touch, and that the guide and the therapist can talk about what's going on, and if they agree that further counseling is a good idea, the Redside Foundation will pay for about 8 sessions of counseling with a therapist who understands the guide's lifestyle And so the guide doesn't have to spend the first session or two explaining, why they live in their car or have chosen this job that's so far outside the norm. And last year, the Redside Foundation paid for over 20,000 individual counseling sessions. And it serves the guides of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. Also with academic scholarships and professional development grants. As you know, as a guide, you're always having to take more certifications or your certs, and that can be an expensive proposition.
Yeah.
So a lot of professional development grants for that, and community building events, and every year they do an annual health fair where any guide who's attending can get pretty much all of their basic healthcare stuff taken care of at no charge. Pretty phenomenal organization. And if your listeners are interested, check it out online, redsidefoundation.org. It's a completely individual donation and a couple of family grants, but primarily individual donation funded organization. And every year more and more people need those services. We've been living in some crazy times. So if you have it in your heart to donate a few bucks, please do. It really makes a difference. As you know, every guide touches many people in a season and really helps them connect to those natural places, helps them fall in love with it, helps, guides help their clients find that peace in themselves when they're out in nature too. And guides are an important part of our whole system here. Any help is fantastic.
Such important work. All right. With that, Shannon, I want to thank you so much. And I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. Again, if you do enjoy these podcasts, do hit the subscribe button. We could use the support on this end. It is that time again. And I want to wish you the best of times with you and your dog. This is Webb Parton signing off. Take care. Have a great day. If you like this episode, I invite you to visit our website, freerangedogs.com. It's where you can find the stuff you need to live the free-range dog lifestyle. I want to help you with that. Book a consultation call or an in-person training, attend one of our ongoing events, or join our online membership program. We got it all on freerangedogs.com. All right, it's time to head back to the truck and the water bucket for the thirsty dogs. This is Webb Parton signing off, wishing you the boundless joy that comes when you share the outdoors with your best friend.